Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Facebook Live. Again, my name is Brittany, just in case you have never seen one of these before and you're new to the group. So today, what I wanted to talk about, a couple things. First off, just because I have a topic of discussion, which is addiction and narcissism, does not mean that I'm not trying to take your questions. So please, if you have any questions, hi, Michelle. If you have any questions, please feel free to shoot a comment. I really wanted this to be a space for you guys to actually have the opportunity to ask me in real time some of your burning questions. I just happened to prepare a topic just in case for some reason there wasn't anything that anybody wanted to ask me initially. So the topic at hand, which I've actually been thinking about for a while, is addiction and narcissistic personality disorder. The reason why I felt like this was actually a really important topic was because I often get asked the question in regards to my clients. You know, their partner may be an addict and they hear me talk about narcissism a lot, but they're like, but my husband's not one, or my partner isn't one. And I really wanted to help just provide the distinguishing factors in order for you to make a more informed decision about your ex-partner or any potential future partners. The thing that's really common amongst both addiction, addicts, and narcissists is that there is the blame shifting, there's the manipulation, there's extreme selfishness, sometimes a lack of an ability to actually empathize with others, and all of those key factors really correlate to each other, which is why they can look very similar. And so with the reason why addiction in particular is different from narcissist or narcissism is that it is pervasive. It's not as pervasive. In other words, addiction can be fixed or cured. We don't really like to use the word cured because that implies that it goes away, but it can be solved. And the way that it's solved is if, obviously someone decides to get the help that they want and they go into an intensive treatment program and they stop their addiction in its tracks, and then they choose to remain sober. Now, whenever someone actually becomes sober, it is really important to note that their personality, when they are sober, should not be the same as the personality that they have whenever they are using. So this is one key distinction between having someone who is just an addictive partner, person who has an addiction or addictive personality, versus a narcissist. Because a narcissist will continue to be a narcissist even if they aren't using. A lot of times narcissists actually use any sort of thing, addiction, to help cope with their narcissism. The view of reality is so skewed. The world they've created for themselves is also so skewed. And so it is super important for them to either fully invest themselves in working or drinking or sometimes porn or sexual behaviors. So those things will be very similar as far as addiction versus narcissism. Anybody have any questions so far? Just wanted to put that out there. Oh, congratulations. That's amazing. Michelle just commented and said that she was 3 years and 4 days clean. That is fantastic. It is so hard to kick a habit. So I appreciate you sharing that with us. It is actually really a great honor of mine when I meet people who are able to beat addiction. So good job, Michelle. Hi, Cassandra. Nice to see you here too. Okay, so I wrote down a couple Q&As. That was silly. A couple facts about, or FAQs rather, to kind of help us get started. So let's see. One question that I get a lot is does addiction cause narcissistic personality disorder? No. Addiction does not cause narcissistic personality disorder. We're just going to call it NPD because saying the whole word is just way too long. Addiction does not cause it. And that is because NPD, or any sort of personality disorder, typically gets diagnosed around the ages of between 15 and 24. Typically younger phase of life. So like we'll say average 15 to 18, or when most of the personality disorders get diagnosed. That was really hard for some reason. And this is because it is something that's pervasive. So NPD will show up far before any addictive sort of behaviors, because it is a disposition that the person has in their personality. The connections that are made in the neurons and the way they fire and all that stuff is conducive to the personality type. But addiction can also be coupled in there. But yeah, no, addiction does not cause NPD, nor does narcissistic personality disorder cause addiction. My dad's a narcissist, and he has an addictive type of personality, but he doesn't use substances or anything like that. I would say that he's addicted to work, which is what gives him value, which is obviously the narc's MO. All right, another question. So one that I get often is, how do I get my partner to change? Well, if I could give you the answer, I'm pretty sure you guys would really love that. But the only way that you can get someone else to change is by changing your own behavior. That is it. And what I mean by that is that we can only control ourselves. We can only control how we respond to things. We can only control how we choose to interact or engage in our world. And so there is no feasible way of changing other people. Now, you can evoke the power of influence, which would come with you, setting boundaries, taking a stand, making a choice that feels really hard for you, that would in turn affect your relationship with your partner. But the only way to evoke change is really by changing the way that you interact. So from my school of thought, so I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm sure most of you do, is that I started off my career as a therapist in marriage and family therapy. And so the way that my master's program taught us therapy was from a systemic perspective, meaning that each family unit or each whatever couple, whatever relationship is its own dynamic, and it's its own solar system. And so one thing that's really stuck with me in my training and just, the way that I view relationships as a whole is that everybody kind of does their dance. So there's like the thing, situation. So we'll say narcissism or addiction, right? And everybody kind of like does their dance around it. And then it takes one person in the system to stop and choose to go the other way, which will cause chaos at first, because if you try to go, the opposite direction of everyone, then obviously you're going to bump into each other, and, it's going to cause a little chaos and some friction. But then eventually, because that one person refuses to change directions and they're still going, the opposite direction, the system itself has to shift. The system itself has to change. And so I say this because it is so imperative to understand that the only way that you can evoke change in any system is by changing yourself, changing your direction, changing the way that you engage or interact with the person who is sick or considered sick. Hopefully that answered that question. If you have any other questions, obviously leave them in the comments. Let's see. I might have already answered this, but another FAQ is like, if he gets sober and he's a narcissist, will he be different, or how will he be? And again, back to what I had said earlier, is if he has NPD, then no stop of the addiction or any of that will ever change his personality. The only way, because like anything, I firmly believe that the universe is, and God is so powerful that if the person in question really, really sees in themselves something that they want to work through and they want to be a better person, then if they make that choice themselves and they get all the help that they need, then my goodness, mountains can move. Personalities, people completely change, but they have to want it for themselves. And so more often than not, the problem with NPD is that they don't even see themselves as having a problem, which is so frustrating for the partners in question, because they're just like, how can you not see that the way that you treat me is not okay? How can you not understand that the world doesn't operate just at your beck and call? And so that worldview, because it is so deeply embedded and ingrained in their personality, it doesn't matter if they stop working or, like addictive working, or if they stop drinking or drugging or anything like that, that personality is going to be consistent. So if you notice that you have a spouse or a partner who after they stopped using still had these really selfish, self-serving, low empathy sort of behaviors, blame shifting, victimizing themselves, all these things, then chances are there's probably something even deeper at the cause. It might not be narcissistic personality disorder, but it could be something else that's a little bit more pervasive. So people battle depression their whole life, or they have other deep-rooted personality disorders. So I say this because, sometimes people just really hope that the addiction, if it's gone, it's going to kick the habit or make the personality change. But that's not always the case. And so it's really important for you to make an informed decision about whether or not you are willing to tolerate someone who might have something that's a little bit more deep-rooted and who isn't willing to get that part of their treatment taken care of. Let's see. Sometimes I get asked, because I think, my first instinct whenever I meet a new client is to assess their needs, obviously, and then figure out whether or not they feel it is healthy for them to stay in their relationship and or get out. And man, making a huge decision like uprooting your life and your children's lives with a divorce is the hardest thing to do, and I do not take that lightly at all. But when people ask me, well, how can I stay married? My go-to for anybody who has either an addiction or narcissistic personality disorder, that if you're going to stay married to that person who is sick, then you have to understand that they're sick. You have to treat them as though, not treat them as though, but you have to understand that their condition is not, it's not just going to go away overnight. And so a huge part of staying married or trying to figure out how to stay married is to actually be accepting of where your partner is at on their journey, on their soul's journey, and accept that maybe they don't want to change. And if they don't want to change, then are you okay with that? I feel like you can placate a relationship for a very long time if you really feel like it's important and valuable to stay married. My mother stayed married to my father for, like 30 years, 31 years, a really long time. And that was because she believed it was better to keep her family together than to split it up. And she did the same thing. She placated. She just kind of walked on eggshells and tiptoed around him. She hid a lot of stuff that he did, his indiscretions and things like that, from us. And that was her choice. And there's power in that choice, because it is an important choice to make. You don't want to make a choice that's rash. But I think the same thing happens, if you're expecting that person to just up and change all of a sudden, then you are in for a rude awakening. It takes a lot of work to change. I mean, let's talk about this group, right? Obviously, we are all here together because for some reason or another, we have struggled in relationship. Some of you might be on the up and up. Some of you might just be getting out of something. Some of you guys might be at a plateau. But the reason is because change is flipping hard. It is so hard. And if you expect your partner to just change overnight, think about your own change journey. How long have you been entertaining these relationships over and over again with the same results? Probably for a while. I know I was in and out of my toxic relationship cycle for years, until I finally decided that I can't do it anymore. I have to do something different. But that took a lot of work because I had to deprogram all of the conditioning that I had been exposed to from a young age as a little girl watching my dysfunctional family, and then not to mention all the experiences that I had with dysfunctional men, and knowing that I too had picked up some dysfunction on my journey. Dysfunction isn't just isolated to other people. Chances are that if you've experienced dysfunction from your family of origin and have been in and out of toxic relationships, then you yourself have dysfunction in your system, which you need to prioritize to get out and work through. And so I think that that's kind of like the hard thing. It's like everybody always wants other people to change, but they don't actually do the work to change themselves. If you're not willing to put your foot down and stand up for who you are as a person, and, say, nope, I'm done with this, like boundary set, not going to shake me, no wavering, then if you're not willing to do that, then again, you're in for a rude awakening because there's no way that your partner is going to be able to match the very thing that you're not willing to do. How do you get out? Okay, so that's another question. Obviously, that's the harder question because everybody's situation is so sensitive and everybody's situation is so case dependent. But some of the key things that I would say in order to help you get out or move through this situation is to find support. Feel confident in yourself. Don't tolerate the blame shifting and the belittling and the manipulation and the lies anymore. You've probably seen a lot of it. You probably recognize it a mile away, and you don't have to tolerate it anymore. And that's what's going to build up your confidence. The more that you're able to set boundaries with your addictive partner and or your narcissistic partner, is the more often that you're able to do that, the more often you will feel strong. The better you will, I don't even know how to describe it. It's so interesting. Once you set that first boundary, regardless of whether or not they actually, adhere to it, it's like if you stuck to your boundary, you stayed firm, you didn't waver no matter how much they tried to manipulate you into wavering, because addicts manipulate just as much as narcissists do. Addicts will lie just as much as narcissists do. Addicts will blame you and the entire world for their addiction just as much as narcissists do as far as, their ability to not show up. And when you can start setting those boundaries and staying firm and actually knowing like internally that you're actually doing it, oh my gosh, it feels like, it's almost like the tides turn. You start to slowly build that confidence. You start to feel a little bit more empowered. It makes it a little easier to continue to set these boundaries with other people in your life, other areas of your life. If you can't start with your partner, start with other places. Start at work. Start in your friendships. Just start saying no. No, that's going to take too much of my energy that I don't want to give out. And if you can build that up in places that feel a little less safe or a little more safe, then it'll be a lot easier for you to translate that into your relationships with your partners. So let's see, what other FAQs do I have? Another one is, I already said, how could you tell the difference? Do you guys have any questions about this in particular? Anyone at all? I feel like addiction is such a difficult journey. Oop, that was weird. And the thing about the addict that's different from the narcissist is that the addict actually knows that they have a problem once they get to the place where they acknowledge it. And they have the ability to take insight and they have the ability to take inventory, whereas the narcissist never admits that they are narcissistic. If they do, it's like basically to shut someone up, but that's like the only time I've ever seen a narcissist ever say it. They always, especially when I get narcissists in my office, which is actually really exciting for me, like, ooh, ground zero, like this is exciting, what can I do? It's really funny because they'll be like, well, my wife keeps throwing around this word narcissism. Do you think I'm a narcissist? But I like give back to my children and I love my family. And, and they try to get me to validate that they are not one. Whereas the people who actually are not narcissists, they are like, I think I might be a narcissist. I'm freaking out. I keep hearing this word and I think that I might be selfish. And so when somebody actually takes that insight into consideration and they actually acknowledge that they might have some traits that are a little bit more selfish or a little bit more manipulative or, they lie maybe or whatever, then you know that they are not a narcissist. That is just a little trick of the trade, just in case you needed a little tip, because it's really interesting. People who do not believe that they have narcissism are typically the ones who actually end up having it. Now, I know this word gets thrown around a lot, so I'm not trying to scare you. There was a really scary statistic that I will tell you, and maybe I've said it in another video, I'm not sure, but apparently there was a study done in New York City, just New York City, where I guess it said 1 in 9 men were narcissists, just walking down the narcissist or sociopaths. I was like, wait, what? Like, where is there hope for us? How are we ever going to find a man if 1 in 9 of them, 1 in 9, carry this characteristic of this personality? But again, it's New York City, and that's a completely different sample size because of, the true grit that runs that place, that town. And honestly, I think it gets thrown around a lot, especially obviously in our group, we're talking about it a lot because that tends to be a majority of the women that seek out, coaching services from me are the ones who have experienced this very, very, oh man, just devastating relationship with somebody who they thought they loved or who they do love, who just continues to belittle them and make them feel worthless and completely just tore them down and ruin their self-esteem and self-confidence. And so whenever you work in a population, it feels like everyone is a narcissist. But I'm here as living proof that not all men are. And not all men are addicted to something. I mean, a lot of us have addictions. Heck, another statistic is if you wake up and check your phone before you acknowledge your partner or your spouse or somebody sleeping next to you, you're addicted to your cell phone. I think an average people touch their cell phones up to 1,200 times a day just to touch to see whether or not, they got a ping or a message or a ding. I mean, kids are committing suicide over not having over 100 likes on Instagram. I mean, I think our society breeds, unfortunately this, it just breeds addiction. And so I think it's just important to kind of understand that. And, oh, look at all these. And yeah, and so it's just, really important to know that if you're not willing to work on your own addictions, because some people are addicted to love, which is why they keep falling in and out of these love cycles that are not, well, helpful. You have to start with yourself before anything, absolutely anything. And this leads me, unless there are any questions. Oh, sorry, I finally found something. It was in, let's see. Okay, so Michelle, you wrote something about men are sneaky, dishonest to a fault. Do you believe that to be true about all men? Because I think it's actually really important to know whether or not that's something that is like something you really believe. Because not all men are like that. And right now, possibly, this is how you feel, which is totally normal and okay considering what you've been through. But my goal with this group is to help you guys evolve to a place where you stop seeing the world from this very low frequency, which has been conditioned in you and has been placed in you. Because whenever you vibrate at a low frequency, you're only calling into your life low frequency vibrations too. So I might do another live about the frequency thing, because I know that can get kind of confusing. But it's really important to acknowledge good things and see the positive, because the more gratitude that you have in your heart, the more things you will call into your life to be grateful for. And that is including the men in your life that you actually want to be with versus the men who you have been with who do not serve you anymore. And, you know, like with this group, my intention, not that I do not believe that your stories are so important and so valuable and so necessary, but I also really, really value moving through this. Like, I want you guys to have the tools to get your butt in the best, most healthy relationship with yourself and with others that you possibly can think of and imagine. Like, I had no idea what I was missing prior to finally starting to understand my true value and my true worth. And then the world opened up in a way that I never even expected or experienced before in my relationship. And, you know, I think it's so important to honor your story, but your story is your story. It's in the past. You cannot change it. What you can do, you can change how you continue to interpret it, and you can change how you continue to move forward. And so this leaves me to say, you guys, there is a group that I have started. The first group will start on January 7th. And it is a series of 21 sessions where we will hop on a video chat like this together. It won't be a Facebook Live. It'll be in a conference room, a video conference room. And we will just talk about all this stuff. I have like 9 learning modules that I want to teach you guys and train you how to help you increase your vibration, use the law of attraction to attract the right partnerships, to feel confident and sexy and beautiful, so that you can go out there and feel like dating is a breeze and you no longer like looking over your shoulder or feeling apprehensive about everyone trying to dick you around. Not to mention, it would be in a group setting to where we all have to have we all get to have conversations. We all get to learn from each other's experiences, and it's just a really beautiful and powerful way to build connection, to have accountability, and to not feel so alone. So, if you guys are interested at all, please shoot me a private message or comment on this video or something like that. I'm in. I'm down. I'm excited, and I will send you over the information about how to sign up, how much it costs. Well, you know, like what's your investment? Because obviously, like, it's an investment. Like I said earlier, you have to be willing to put in the energy into something that is beneficial for you in order to evoke and create change. And so that's what I want for you guys as well. I want to provide you with these opportunities so that you can actually put you first for once. For once. I hope everyone had a Merry Christmas. If you have any additional comments or questions, please feel free to connect with me. I just believe that you guys are just so special. I am so honored that you guys have chosen to be a part of this group with me and with each other. And thank you so much. I just want to really provide that space for you guys. And hopefully we will connect one-on-one at some point in time. So with love and light, I will talk to you guys soon. Hopefully this was informative. There we go. And leave me questions that I want to get better too. I want to be able to provide content that you actually really care about, that feels valuable to you. So please leave me comments. Let me know what your thoughts are about this and anything else. All right. Bye.